What if ruined lasagna was a turning point in your marriage? And that's what happened to our guest, David Kiwi. What started off as a silent standoff in the kitchen turned into years of unspoken expectations, tension, and miscommunication, which is sometimes typical in marriage. It's a give and take kind of thing, especially when he and his wife were started working together, which is, oh, that's a recipe for disaster. So instead of giving up, though, they found a way through. In today's episode, David shares how they turned conflict into connection. And they created powerful agreements and discovered how to win every argument with your spouse every time. So stay tuned. This one's real, raw, and incredibly powerful.
Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show, where you will discover how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream. Paul Guyon, the mastermind behind the Lead Machine, introduces you to trailblazers who inspire you to implement life-changing solutions and systems you can model to nurture your leads and get your offers seen by your ideal clients who will invest in themselves and you. Be sure you visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, tune in and get ready to transform your vision into reality.
Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show. I'm Paul Guyon, your host, the Lead Machine coach, and the founder of the Lead Machine Marketing Group and Mastermind. I'm dedicated to helping you tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream life. So whether you're just starting out or you're taking your business and your relationship to the next level, because they kind of go hand in hand, let's get this conversation started and turn your dreams into reality. So welcome, David. David, I'm going to read your bio real quick. David is the co-founder of Kiwi Coaching, dedicated to helping couples who want to work together, strengthen their relationships, and thrive as partners. So I assume you mean working in a business relationship as well as in a marriage.
Correct. Thanks, Paul. I
Yeah,
appreciate you having me.
yeah, and it's an honor. This kind of snuck up on me, but I'm glad it did. So this is
Let's
a
rock it.
great
Let's do it.
This is a great topic. So he and his wife Alexis have built a thriving coaching business and marriage, which is super important. They do go hand in hand, and you got to support each other when you're in this together. Their proven methods have taken dozens of couples from feeling stuck and disconnected to deeply connected and thriving in both business and marriage. So, David, welcome to the show. Your friends call you Kiwi, but it's Kiwimagi, and you hail from Colorado area, and we're in Michigan today. So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for showing up today.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. Yeah, my name is David Kiwimagi, and day one in the military, they looked at my last name and they were like, yeah, we're not doing that. So they said, you're going to be Kiwi for the rest of your career. So yes, I am known as the Kiwi. Me and my wife are called the Kiwis. We have an amazing marriage, an incredible coaching business. We have been super blessed. But honestly, we didn't start out that way.
Yeah, so tell me about the lasagna and how that just started the old standoff.
This started off as probably one of the biggest things that we fought about in our marriage and ended up being one of the most powerful stories that we tell and help our clients and share with other people. And it's actually really funny. So it started actually when we were first married. There's kind of four parts to the story. We'll tell each one of those as we go through this today. But it started off when we were first married. Been about a year. We were brand new married. And I told my wife, would you make me my favorite food? Lasagna.
Mm.
What she didn't know, this is the food my mom had made every year without fail for my birthday. So I didn't set her up for success with that request because I had some unspoken expectations. This needed to be this way. Well, she did. She got her grandmother's recipe. She made the lasagna. She put it in front of me. It smelled amazing, but my hopes were quickly dashed when I stuck my fork in it. My fork hit something rubbery, and not like a good noodle rubbery, like bad rubbery. And I peeked between the noodles, and there was a hard-boiled egg.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't put hard-boiled eggs in lasagna. And so I sat there looking at my wife, my brand new wife, mind you, who's glowing with pride. And I was like, I thought to myself, do I tell her that her lasagna has just committed the unforgivable culinary crime? Or do I stay silent like a good husband and just eat it? The truth was, I didn't know what to say or even how to say it. And I was kind of afraid I'd hurt her feelings. And I was
Yeah.
terrified of her reaction. So I just kept silent. I shut my mouth. I swallowed my pride. I swallowed the lasagna. But it
And
didn't
the egg.
taste. Yeah, and the egg. And it didn't taste good. It didn't. It just even to keep quiet. But that wasn't the first time throughout our marriage that we kept quiet. It wasn't the first time where when either one of us didn't know what to say, we just suffered in silence. And so it really came to a head though when we had this great idea of let's start a business together. Her idea, by the way, she started it. So I was like, sure, why not? Let's do it. Well, 30,000 plus dollars later in investments in Facebook ads, lead generation. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. We invested a
Yeah.
lot, but we still weren't getting progress. And it was really starting to strain our marriage to the
Mm.
point my wife gave me an ultimatum. She said, we've got to do something or we're going to lose out on both our marriage and our business. And so she said, we should do this coaching thing. Literally, my thought was, well, how much is this going to cost? Because we'd already invested a lot. And
Hmm.
so we met and we talked to the guy, but I realized something had to change because if we continued doing what we were doing, the path did not end well. So we shifted our focus, we shifted our commitment, and we took the training sessions. It was like 8 weeks long, 1 hour sessions. And through that training, everything changed. I started to see my wife not just as my business partner and my wife, but as someone with unique skills and capabilities that she brought both to the business boardroom and to the marriage. And she started to see me the same way. And after those few weeks, now when we have conflict in our marriage, unlike the first lasagna part of it, we don't butt heads anymore. I used to feel afraid of what her feelings were. I know exactly how she feels now, and I know what to say to her and how to say it. And I'm no longer afraid of her reaction. In fact, the other day, every time I do a podcast, I go to her and I say, hey, here's this podcast. What's your thoughts on it? Can we be a blessing to this podcast and these people? And I value all of her input. And so now we have an amazing marriage. After we did that, my wife came to me and she said, we have to share this knowledge with other couples. So my goal today is to share parts of my story, be real, be authentic, and everyone can walk away with some incredible tools on how to build in their relationships, but also mainly in their marriage.
Wow. I love it. And getting wise counsel is super important in business as well as in relationships. And you did both. Let's rewind a little bit though. I've been there. I've been there uh, where you don't talk. You just there's like these expectations have been unmet, and then if you have to backpedal a lot to
Mm,
explain where you're coming from, and then you didn't really mean that, and no, that's not really what I intended to have happen. It happened because of someone else who entered into this thing, and I made this decision. It was the wrong decision. I'm sorry. There's just so much there where if you don't talk about it and you let it fester and you let it simmer, eventually something's going to happen where it's going to boil over. And that happened to me. And I nearly lost my children over it. And I certainly lost my partner, who I thought would be, my forever partner. And it didn't end well. Fortunately, I'm in a really good relationship with my wife, who's also is my sounding board for my business. And she's going, "You got a podcast? Are you kidding me? I thought that was on your schedule. This happened tonight." And she was making dinner. And so she's going to put that on hold while I do this. But she understands because we got to move the needle. And this
yeah,
is, we got to keep doing that. So
absolutely.
congratulations on working through that with your spouse. What does she expect out of this podcast, might I ask?
Oh goodness. Yeah, so when I first started doing public speaking, whether it was on a stage or podcast, I love the podcast because it's more of like a conversation, not me giving a
Yeah,
lecture, so to speak.
right.
At first she was like, "Well, how much time is this going to take? How often are you going to do these?" And I was like, "As often as they'll let me." Like I love them.
Yeah,
But what
for
it
sure.
also does, it's been a blessing because we get to network and meet new people that we wouldn't have otherwise. And it's
Right.
been just incredible. When you talk about those unspoken expectations, though, those were really prevalent in our early marriage as well as in our business. And you nailed it. Unspoken expectations are like seeds of resentment when they go unmet. They can grow like weeds
Yeah.
in the garden of your relationship, and they can
Mhm.
choke out the beautiful parts of your relationship, sometimes to the extreme. For us, what really helped us with unspoken expectations, and we all have them. Like when I was first married, I did the dumb. Let me just be real for a second. I was the typical new husband. I came home from work and I expected my wife's a stay-at-home mom. She has one kid. The house should be clean and dinner should be made. Right? This is the expectation I had. Right? You know where
What
this is going.
what are you making for dinner tonight, honey?
Right. So I walk through the door and reality hits, right? I'm navigating
Yeah.
the landmines of activities and toys that the kid did. I get to the kitchen and instead of finding dinner ready, I find breakfast dishes still on the counters. And my wife is sitting on the floor with a baby strapped to her chest. And so I asked the best husband question I could at the time, which was, "What'd you do all day?" I'm still alive. I'm still here. But in that moment, yes, sometimes we have unspoken expectations that are also unrealistic. But that aside, there's an
Yeah.
exercise that we learned that I encourage anybody who's working in business together to do. You sit down and you and your partner get three pieces of paper. On the top of each piece of paper, you write your name, your partner's name, and then both. And so then you sit down and it's like a elementary test. No cheating, no looking at each other. I recommend picking a topic like household work or business work because this can get out of hand if you try to do all of it at once. And so you
Yeah.
write down on your piece of paper the stuff that you have expectations that you will handle, and stuff that on your spouse's pieces of paper what they'll handle, and then stuff you'll both work on together. Perfect example, me and my wife did household work. We both wrote laundry on each other's to-do list. They're like, "Oh, because we both hate laundry." Well,
Yeah.
once you're done with that, I recommend doing this on a date night or with food. You sit down and now you're outside of that unspoken expectation where there's not the high tension and norepinephrine running in your system. And you're able to sit down and be like, "Okay, I see that both of us don't want to do laundry. What can we do to talk about this to come up with a compromise?" Or, like, for example, Facebook ads. "Oh, I thought you were doing the ads this week. Oh, I thought you were working with the team this week. Oh, I thought you were contacting marketing." When you sit down in the business and you say, "Okay, who's handling what?" Those
Mhm.
unspoken expectations can now be made into agreements on who's handling what. This is not a
Yeah.
once and done exercise either. I do recommend
No.
doing this. We do it about quarterly, but monthly is probably a good idea if you're starting out. Because then, if something's not working in the next month, you can make it a new agreement and switch it up. Perfect example. In the laundry, my wife washes it and dumps it on the floor in the bedroom. I fold it and put it away. And that seems to be
Oh,
working well this month.
good
We'll
for
see how it
you.
goes.
I hate folding it.
I hate laundry, period. Like any of it. But yeah, but now, anytime we have something that was unspoken or we have this expectation of the other, we don't have to worry about it not going unmet because we have a time and a place to sit down and turn it into an agreement. A lot of couples'
I
arguments, too, start with unspoken expectations where
Mhm.
I thought you were going to do this. Well, I thought you were going to do this. And that kind of leads into one of the things I like to share, called how to win every argument with your spouse every time.
Yeah.
When
Right.
someone told me that, I was like, yeah, right. Not going to happen. So,
Well, I know before you say it, what I would say, what my solution to that is, I'm sorry. I was wrong. You were right. But that doesn't go very far.
it doesn't.
But
Happy
I'm
wife.
sorry is something. Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you're not happy though.
That it's honestly leads from my experience and all the clients we've worked with, that leads to a disgruntled husband.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Someone who's like, "Oh, I'll just suffer and take it." A happy marriage, though, leads to a happy business, leads to a successful life.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
another one too that says when two people argue, someone has to lose. That's actually a misconception. And when I was learning this, I'm like, really? Perfect example. So, kind of part two, a lasagna story, right? When I was at work several years later, my boss and I were talking about, what's your favorite food? And I was like, oh man, I love a good lasagna. He goes, oh, my wife, she makes an amazing lasagna. I'll have her make you one and you can take it home to your wife.
Uh-oh.
All I could think was, please don't. Like, I'm going to be in so much trouble. Because my wife had tried about 5 different recipes and I didn't like any of them, to be honest. And so the next day I showed up at work and in the break room fridge was a lasagna with my name
Oh my
across the
God.
top, Kiwi, right? And I thought to myself, do I disappoint my boss and leave it here? Or do I take it home and possibly start a fight with my wife? But I also thought this would probably be the first time in my marriage I've had good lasagna. So I took it home. My wife found it. She opens the fridge and she knows what it is, but she's like, what's that? She talks just like that too. And I'm like, food. She's like, where'd you get it? I sheepishly replied, my boss's wife made it for me. I'll never
Oh.
forget her next words. She closes the fridge. She looks at me with hands on her hips and she's like, couldn't get it from your wife, so had to get it from another man's wife, huh? And thus cued one of our biggest fights ever.
Oh.
But any couple that can have an argument, a disagreement, or a challenge that comes into the marriage and work together and come out the other side can conquer anything in their marriage and their business and their life. So the mindset shift to win every argument every time is this: it's you and me versus the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So when you first get married, you're holding her hand, you're looking into her eyes, you're like, I'm in love, I'll take on the world with you. But then kids come along. Then we start a business together. And now it's more like, you're the problem. No, you're the problem. Like, your mother-in-law's the problem. Like, that's how that goes. You end up fighting over it. But when you go back to the whole, okay, it's you and me versus the problem. And so my wife and I, perfect example, we had an argument in the kitchen like 2 days ago. And I don't remember what we were arguing about, but I yelled from the living room, it's you and me versus the problem. She yelled back, are you sure? Like, yes, I'm sure. But when you sit down and you talk about, okay, what's really going on here? Honey, I want to work with you. I want to meet in the middle. Let's figure out what the real problem is here. I don't want to just, go into the corner, happy wife, happy life, and then, or you feel like you just have to cave because I'm in charge. Like, none of that, none of that. Let's work together on this. This works really true in business. I taught this. I managed about like 27 different DoD programs, and I taught this to a lot of the managers. And I said, okay, if your employee comes to you with a raise request, he's like, I want a raise, I want more money. But you're told you have to cut costs. So you both go into the conference room and have a meeting. How's that going to go? And a lot of them are like, well, I'm just going to tell them this is how the company is. I said, no. It's you and them versus the problem. What's the real problem here? And some managers get it right away and some don't. But the real problem is the company's not profitable enough. Because if the company was more profitable, the employee could get the raise. We wouldn't be so stressed about cutting costs. So how can you guys unite to come up with more profitability for the company? And when you focus on that, it's no longer me and my client versus each other, or me and my competitor versus each other even. It's how do we come together and make a better future for everybody? What's the real problem? What are we really working on here? And that, when I started using that changed everything, because it made me really sit down and
Yeah.
I'm madly in love with this woman and I love working with her. She's the best boss I've ever had. I did tell her you can't get an HR department because the sexual harassment claims would be through the roof.
Yeah.
Like, you're married to me.
I want to know how the boss's wife's lasagna turned out. Did it meet your expectations?
It was amazing. I ate
Was it?
that. I was in so much trouble and I didn't care. It was delicious.
Did she have any?
I don't think she did, actually. I think out of spite, she didn't. The kids loved it. I had a couple of kids at that point. I got 3 now. But yeah, they loved
Yeah.
it. They thought it was great.
Now, did that meet your mother's? Was it your mother's or your grandmother's recipe?
Yeah, so
Was it as good?
that's it was my mom is the one that made it, and that's kind of the end of my story. I don't know how much time we
Ah,
have. We doing good on time?
yeah, we got about 20 minutes.
Okay. So there's one more piece before we get to that though. Stand by. Continue to listen to the podcast for those that are listening.
Yeah.
We will we'll get to the conclusion of the lasagna story.
Yeah.
But backing up a little bit, speaking of the lasagna, when my wife first made the lasagna, and pretty much every time she tried to make lasagna, I would have a slice, I would try it, and she'd put the leftovers in the fridge for me to have or take to work. Well, I'd get up and I'd like, oh, I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna pack a lunch. I open the fridge and I see her lasagna, and I go, I'm gonna pack a lunch. What else is in here? Ooh, moldy cabbage. I'll take this. I genuinely refused to eat it because I didn't like it. And I didn't tell her I didn't like it because I didn't know how to communicate with her at the time. And we just ended up, so she opens the fridge, and now the lasagna has gone bad because it sat in there for many days. So she is upset because she couldn't get me to eat the lasagna. And this is something where that feeds into his business, her business, and not your business. When we teach our coaching clients this one lady, when she got this revelation, she realized that 99% of her anxiety came from this. And so when we were first taught it, we were taught that you have full control over what you think, do, feel, and create. You have honestly zero control over what other people feel, do, think, and create. And so my wife could create a lasagna, but whether I chose to eat it or love it was actually within my scope of control. And when she was constantly worrying and stressing about stuff outside her scope of control, it was causing her anxiety to go up and her frustration with me to go up. And all of the arguments, they usually lead back to unspoken expectations. She had an expectation that I would eat all of the lasagna. In fact, when she made enchiladas, I ate the whole pan in 2 days. They were delicious. My wife is an amazing cook, by the way. She gets bad rap with this story, but she is a really good cook. But I didn't touch the lasagna. So she's like, what's wrong with you? It's your problem, right? And then you end up in an argument. But when you focus on what you can control, you focus on what you feel, do, think, and create, then you have full control over that and you can strive there. And when you understand too that you are the only one who has control over that, and the only thing holding you back in those areas is you. And so when we started focusing on that, we started to realize that a lot of our stresses of what we were doing were outside of our control. And then the last but not least is what we call not your business, or we say God's business. These are things that are completely outside of both of your controls. For example, we lived in Florida, and when a hurricane comes, you can't do anything about that. Stressing about the hurricane and worrying about it, all it does is cause you anxiety. But you focus in those moments on what you can control. I can control whether I have a disaster recovery plan, an evacuation route, enough water, right? Did I properly plan and create a safe environment for my family? And when you focus on what you can control, you have complete control over your environment and you feel successful in it. This is true in business. I can't control whether my Facebook ads work well. I run Facebook ads.
Yeah.
And when I first ran them, I had the hardest time getting them to run. I was getting like, up to $3 a click. Cost per click was through the roof. I'm down to 10 cents a cost per click now because I hired the right
Nice.
coach, and that's a different story. But I
Yeah.
focused on what I could control, which is I can control the ad. I can control the ad copy. I can't make it work, but I can focus on this. I'm going to try new things every week. Let's mix something up. Let's try something new. And it's worked really, really well. And so when we shared this with a client, and she gave us one of the best reviews that we had, actually. She sat there and we told her that. She goes, oh my gosh. And I looked at her and was like, what was that? What just went through your head? She said, I am almost all the time stressing about how my husband feels. And I'm not worrying about, am I creating a safe environment for him? I'm always just, how are you feeling? What about you? What about you? To the point, he just shuts down and goes into a corner. Instead of saying, let me create an environment where he feels safe, loved, and cherished. So I said, here's your challenge. I want you to take a week and focus on creating an environment and let me know how it goes. The next week, she came back to us in her next session. She's like, it was amazing. We had such good conversations. He's like, wow, I feel really loved by you and seen by you. What changed? She's like, I just focused on my business and got out of yours.
Wow. That's powerful. I have to
Sorry, go ahead.
I have to ask you, and maybe this is not the right time. Uh, okay, I'll ask you this question, and
Go
then
ahead.
we'll get to that. I'll come back to that one, because it's about lasagna. I'm going to have some lasagna this weekend.
It
So,
happens.
where should couples start where they can work better together? Because you've already got these on. It's not like I just got married and now I can start fresh. I've
Right.
got baggage. I've got baggage. I'm worried about how my wife is thinking, and my wife is always, doing things for me, and she sacrifices herself and
Hmm.
her time, and and I see that in her family. Her children does it. Her mother does it, um, and I don't want that for her. I want her to thrive, and I want her to have a safe environment. So where can we start to make those agreements, to get out of our own way, to get into the things that we can control?
Yeah, I would start with the exercise of unspoken expectations to agreements. Have a date night, have dinner tonight, and get three pieces of paper and say, all right, we're going to try this. Pick a category, either household, work, or business, just because it can get out of hand. You can do all of it. That's just my recommendation. And have those conversations. I feel like I'm expected to do this and you're expected to do this. And she's gonna be like, well, I feel like I'm expected to do this and you're expected to do this. And you can sit and talk about it.
Yeah.
Another thing that we teach people that is huge is love languages. I think at this point in time, they've been around so much that people have heard of them at least, and maybe have
Yeah.
taken them. 9 times out of 10, I've only met two couples in my life that have the same love language.
Mhm.
It's just the rarity of it. So for me, I am physical touch, and my wife is time. So love languages are kind of like spoken languages. I'll give you a short story on this. Imagine you're like outside in Russia and you're trying to get a picture of the Kremlin, and everyone around you's talking in Russian. Well, you don't speak Russian. So it just kind of sounds like the teacher from the Peanuts cartoons, right? Wah, 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 wah. I dated myself a little. Yeah, there you go. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I dated myself. But anyway, so you hear that and you're like, none of it makes sense. But all of a sudden, someone behind you yells, hey, over here. It's a great place for a picture. You immediately tune in to that because that was your first language. It's English. You understood it.
Yeah.
That's what it's like when you're trying to communicate love to your spouse, not in their native language. And so for me, it was physical touch. My wife was time. So with physical touch, I'm constantly giving her, a hug, a peck on the cheek, I'm walking out, and I'm done. And my wife's in the kitchen going, what am I, chopped liver? You're not spending any time with me.
Yeah.
So once we understood what each other's was, I said, okay, I'm responsible for what I create. I can't make her feel loved, but I can make an environment where she feels loved. So I said, okay, I'm going to do what we call couch time. I'm going to get the kids occupied playing a game, doing something for at least 5 minutes. I'm going to make her a cup of coffee and I'm going to sit on the couch with her and just tell her, I don't have a lot of time in the world, but you're worth all my time in the world. I have 5 minutes. I just want to spend time with you. Just the fact that I took the time to carve out that time meant the world to her. And she's done the same thing. She comes downstairs and she'll just like, I'll be usually not in a podcast, but she'll come just give me a big old hug and just walk out. She doesn't even have to say anything. But when you're consciously trying to speak their language, it communicates on a whole deeper level. So when you start getting your unspoken expectations to agreements and you start practicing communicating in each other's love language, your marriage will start to thrive and go from this just barely survive into this thrive mode. The third piece on what you were saying there, and this is the one that we teach in our clients, is we teach
Mhm.
people their Clifton Gallup strengths. This is a online assessment that you can take, and it really breaks you down into the core of who you are and how unique you are. When we teach this too, we teach the husband's strengths to the wife and vice versa. So then they understand exactly how their wife ticks, exactly how their husband thinks, or what he's doing when he's not thinking, and how to do these different things. And when you have that perspective, that's when our relationship changed for us. I know exactly how she thinks, exactly how she feels. And I love her reaction to things now because I understand where it's coming from. And so, just
Yeah.
like in any other journey, hire someone who's been down this road before and they'll guide you in it. But you can always get started. Start with the love languages, start with the unspoken expectations.
Awesome. And that was going to be what I was going to ask you at the end, but
Okay.
I'm glad you did it. Those are the three things.
Yeah.
Um, Looking back at the lasagna story, I'm going to keep coming back to lasagna.
Oh, you're good.
I'm hungry, by the way.
Fair enough.
What do you wish that you and Alexis would have known in that moment?
Oh, if I had known, and I mean, we spent over 10 years of our marriage before we even got over some of these hurdles to the point when we lived in Florida, when I was stationed there in the military, if someone said lasagna around me and my wife, we got like that super awkward silent. Like you could feel the contention in the air because it wasn't funny then. It's funny now.
Now it
In
is.
fact, I love it when she's able to join me for podcasts because then she shares her side of the story and you can actually see both sides of it. But what I wish I had known back then is that this isn't something you teach in schools. This isn't something that people just give you. This isn't something you can go take a class in. This is something you build over time. So don't expect to be perfect at it right away. So give yourself the grace that you're going to build it as you go forward. And as you know, being in marriage for a while, you're going to learn things as you go. The truth is, if you have the mindset of I'm willing to grow and I'm willing to work together with this person for the rest of our lives, you'll build something people are jealous of.
Yeah, I can relate. And my wife and we were both on our third marriage. And this is not something I've shared on this podcast, but I'm going to share it now because we're talking about relationships. And when you have gone through that, that messy, first of all, her spouse is, the bar was pretty low, so it was easy for me to be better. But we met in church. We have the same. We have so much in common, but we're so different.
Mhm.
We're so different. But we met there, and we put God at the center of our relationship. And so we have to trust him. And so that's really served us well. That's really served us well. I love what we're talking about. I love the agreements and the things. And she calls me out. She goes, what are you doing this podcast thing for? Is it getting you any clients? Is it doing what you expected it to do? And she'll ask me those kinds of questions. And those are difficult questions to answer sometimes. It was like, well, the truth is that I'm using this to network with people and to meet potential clients and to get expert advice from industry experts who know stuff that I don't know. So yeah, it's working great. We've got 115 or so, or 18 episodes, I think, 118 or 119. I think
That's
this might be 119 that we're recording right now. So, but having I don't know where I'm going with this. Having a partner like that who you can rely on, and that they're going to tell you the truth about what they think.
awesome.
And even if it's hard, even if it's difficult, we do have those conversations. But I like how you have a structure and a formula to like some instructions, because there aren't any instructions. There's so many books on relationships, but what you're saying here is pretty simple to follow. Pretty simple exercises. Uh, and the feedback on the Clifton, knowing your personality. I took that when I was on looking for a spouse on the dating sites. I took that
Uh-huh.
and said, are we compatible with so and so? I never did find anyone, uh, but
Well, here's
no,
interesting. I
no,
love that you did that. I would love to see your side notes. I'd love to see your strengths and go through them
yeah,
with you. Let's make a time to do that. But
yeah,
the beautiful part, what you said on that, looking for someone that shared similar interests, right? My wife's from
yeah.
Cali. I'm from Colorado. We met in Ho Chi
Hmm.
Minh, Vietnam on a missions effort where we were giving
Wow.
rice and food. So we share a lot of passions that are the same, but our Clifton strengths are polar opposites.
Yeah.
We are completely different in the way we're wired and the way we think. So even if you're working with someone or you're married to someone, you're like, they don't think like I think. When you learn how they think and how you think and how they work together, you become unstoppable.
Yeah, and I think that because we met in church, and that we were committed to bring God into our relationship and make that the center of everything, He's really smoothed the way out of some of the difficult times that we've had. And
Amen.
we're young. We're young. Is our marriage is young. But if you count them all together, we've both been married for over 30 years. But if we've been married for 4 years now. We've known each other for 6. So, but things are going great, and I appreciate this topic uh, the most. I think every guest I have brings something new, that for me to ponder. We were talking yesterday about, I had a guest yesterday. We were talking about knowing what motivates, what are the intrinsic motivators of your
Yeah.
team. Okay, so what's the internal motivation? My internal motivation is curiosity and purpose, and recognition is also something that's important to me. And my wife just pegged it. She called it right out. Uh, but knowing those kinds of things, it's in a relationship, knowing how to speak with your team, how to work with your team or with your partner is paramount. So having a simple way to do that is powerful.
Absolutely. I mean, that's amazing too. I mean, God's the center of my relationship with my wife. That's been the key foundation. And I usually don't go into that on podcasts unless the host goes in that direction. But yeah, that's the foundation on which our marriage was built. But that doesn't mean it wasn't without its rocky moments and it wasn't without its
Yeah.
trials and its tribulations. I mean, we've been through amazing times where we have huge, wonderful business moments where we're traveling. We've been to Thailand. Then we've had years of what I call absolute hell where we buried 11 people, including our own daughter. I mean, we've been through
Oh.
the ups and the downs, but it's through that God kept us together. But it's also through that we've learned some simple techniques that really made all the difference. And that made a huge impact on what we were able to do and how we're able to help others on our journey.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about the loss of your daughter. We also lost a daughter.
Yeah.
My wife did a long time ago. So what do couples do to start along this journey of healing your relationship when only when one partner isn't really on board? What can you do?
We've had that where we have clients where they come in and they're like, "Do you work with solo people?" And we actually work with solo people more than we work with married people. We try to get both
Ah,
of them in because it's really helpful to see both sides, but a lot of people that we coach are actually just coming in by themselves. That's usually because they're in business by themselves. Like their spouse supports them, but not really working in business together, like me and my wife are. And so that's very common. There's a lot of healing that goes on for us. Like we've had to heal a lot of childhood trauma. We've had to
mhm.
heal a lot of cultural trauma of the cultures that we grew up in that were very rigid and very stringent. And we've had a lot of healing from God. And it's taken a lot of our journey on an interesting path. The key thing to that, I would say, is this is you are not broken. You are
Mhm.
not ruined. You are not too far gone. There is so much hope still in you. And the reason I know this is because it was my story. And so it's funny. I usually don't share this portion of it. You've taken us down a tangent.
Mhm.
I love it. Let's do it. Um,
Yeah.
but there's a piece that really healed me, and I'll share that now. It's the pressures that you have faced and the heat that has burned you and burned things out of you, and then the cuts that you have faced, the losses that you have endured.
Mm.
That is the exact same process that a diamond is made. And you're still
Mhm.
here. You didn't break under that pressure. You got stronger because of it. But a diamond, there's a warning with this, a diamond in a dark room is nothing more than a sharp rock.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to step out into the light to let the world see your brilliance, your flaws, you're breathtaking, but you're also
Mhm.
unbreakable. And so when you step
Yeah.
out and say, I'm going to make a podcast and let the world see me in my vulnerable state, meet other people the same, you
Yeah.
become diamond. You become inspiring. You become breathtaking, but you become unbreakable in a way that you can share that with the world. And you become the very inspiration that people are looking for. If someone's listening to this podcast right now and they're like, I needed that, then this was for you. The
Yeah.
whole purpose of us getting together right now was for that person listening because they know you've got this. There's more to you than you believe, but you got to be willing to step out and step into what you're passionate about, whether that's podcast, business, lead gen, marriages, cybersecurity. Own it because there's no one in the world like you and the world needs you.
Right. The world needs you, and you must, for you listening, step into the light.
Absolutely.
Step into the light. So this has been how do I say, a beautiful surprise. Because I was not expecting to record a podcast today.
Fair enough.
As we were talking before, so do we have a are we supposed to be on today? Do you have a are you recording today? And yes, thankfully we are. So God bless this mess. Uh,
Amen. Well,
It's
let me leave you with this. Let me wrap up that
yeah,
lasagna story for you.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
after about 10 years of contention in our marriage, my wife finally swallowed her pride and she went to my mom's house. And she sat
Ah.
down at the table with my mom and she said, "What is this coveted recipe that he loves so much? Like, can I please have it? Because I want to make it for him." Because she loved me. She wanted to make it for me. She's like, "What is the
Yeah.
recipe?" My mom, sitting across the table from her, looked shocked. She replied, "What recipe? I always bought it frozen from the store."
I knew it
I
was
didn't
going to
know
be
that.
Stouffer's lasagna.
It was Walmart Stouffer's lasagna.
Oh my
Apparently,
gosh.
that's what I love. When my wife told me that, I felt awful. I was like, "Oh, really? My bad." That's what I love. It's cheap stuff. My wife's making this good organic stuff, and I like the cheap stuff. But
Yep.
it's moments like that that make you realize a lot of times in your life, the things that were contentious, the things that cause like a ton of contention throughout your marriage, and even fights because your boss's wife. Those are the things sometimes that end up becoming the greatest story that you can tell the world about how they can get through it too.
Wow. And your boss was pretty generous too
Oh yeah.
to say that my wife is going to do this, and he hadn't asked his wife. You
No,
know.
but I did get to know them and we actually spent a lot of time with them. She loved cooking like my wife did. They got along great.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if she bought her lasagna at Walmart too.
To this day, she still has not made me another lasagna, especially after learning that. She's like, "If you want it, you just go buy it frozen."
Oh my gosh. You know, we used to have my both of my parents were doctors, as was my one of my brothers. Uh, and so they both worked. So we had housekeepers and babysitters.
Hmm.
And we had this Mrs. Felix was uh, she was probably 4'11", tall and wide, and she would make homemade pasta. She had the pasta roller and then
Oh, good stuff.
she would make from scratch lasagna. And man, oh man, that was the best. That was the
Good
best. I've
stuff.
never had anything like that. But I do love a good plate of lasagna with some good garlic bread and some good company.
Yeah, you can't
But
go
now
wrong. Yeah, it's a good meal.
now I'm getting hungry. So how David, how can people get a hold of you? And you have a language love language workbook. So can you tell us about that and how people can get it?
Yeah, so you can go to davidandalexis.kiwi.org and you can download our current love language workbook. I am actually building a Gallup Strengths workbook as well. So if you're listening to this podcast and it's been several weeks, that might be released as well on the same page. You can get it there. And so if
Mhm.
you that's what you're interested in, if you want to learn more about our coaching, you can also learn it through there. Just follow along with the prompts. But if you want a little bit more about us and you want to get some more freebies and some more good stuff, both me and my wife are on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. And so we release stuff occasionally on all of those different platforms, just encouragement, different fun things, different good stories, different just little nuggets like the stories we shared today. So if you just
Yeah.
want, a good feed in your or a good story in your social media, follow us on those platforms and we will set you up for success.
Awesome. Yeah. So definitely reach out. That's David and Alexis Kiwi. That's KIWI.org. And do you share recipes on that YouTube channel?
My wife actually has shared recipes, obviously not a lasagna one, but she does have some really incredible recipes that she's shared before. Yes.
Oh, that's great. That's great. My first book was a cookbook. It was a community cookbook,
Oh, nice.
and it was actually my first digital product. And it turned out as like, boy, did I miscalculate my audience because they all wanted a hard copy cookbook that they can lay on their counter. So it
Mhm.
was delivered digitally. They said, "Where's my cookbook?" And I went, "Uh-oh." So I scurried and I got it printed out. It was for a food rescue organization in my local area, and we raised money and salvaged food, soon to expire fresh food. And this
Oh, wow.
this book ended up we got 100 donors in 100 days. Basically, we got 100 recipes, 100 plus recipes, and all these people were going, "Wow, yeah, this is great. Let's get behind it." So they were not only in the cookbook, but they were also became supporters of the program.
Oh,
So
that's
that was my
awesome.
that was my first book, but you know, I cook a lot more, and we were talking about, oh yeah, what's for dinner?
Hmm.
We tag team what's going on for dinner. So tonight, I picked up. I said, let's have this tonight. Let's have this or this. We're having chicken nachos tonight.
Ooh, fun.
And yeah, and with fresh shredded cheese and stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. But we do rally around. Okay, what's for dinner? What are we going to have? And we plan it out, and we both cook, and try to plan weeks because we're so busy. Both of us are working, and we've got lots going on. I'm a musician and have that going on, and this is gig season, so I got like 30 gigs on the calendar between now
Wow.
and October. So that's why I was telling you earlier we have the podcasts lined up. So that's probably why I kind of missed like having this on the schedule today because I have so many. It's like
No,
how
I totally get
hard to
it.
keep track.
Everyone's busy, but in the busyness, you find time to be able to just enjoy a good meal. All business meetings, I in my philosophy, should have food.
I totally agree. I totally agree. Well, it's a shame we didn't get to meet Alexis too. She's probably not ready to jump on camera right now, so
Oh,
I'm not
no,
going to
she's
ask you that.
she's actually I gotta probably wrap this up here because she has a webinar with about 150 people that she's got to teach next.
Oh,
So
nice, and you've got 5 minutes, so
yeah,
uh, that's cool. David, thank you so much. As we sign off, remember faith and action go hand in hand. So keep the pedal to the metal until next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show. I'm Paul Guyon and David Kiwi. Thanks a lot for coming today, brother. I appreciate it.
my pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lead Machine Growth Show with Paul Guyon, where we show you how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream so that you can transform your vision into reality. Remember to visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show.